And we're back here today with another podcast. Say hi to
This is
Catherine.
another episode. Yay!
Today we have a guest on our podcast, and it is Ashley. Ashley, what would you like to say?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me on.
Amazing.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Catherine, can you tell us the topic of today?
So today, this week, all about, we're talking about professional judgment. Something I don't think that I have, but I'm yet to discover maybe I do.
I do. I'm very judgmental.
That's funny.
Thanks.
That's funny. No, I was talking to Margot earlier in the class, and I was like, no, coming into this, I was definitely more of the mindset of like, oh, professional judgment. We don't have that yet because we're not teachers.
Right.
She does the sound effects, and she does them very well.
I do.
But I was like, no, professional judgment, something like you develop like through your years of teaching. Yeah. Turns out, I'm so scared I'm going to drop this off my lap. Anyways, yeah, turns out I was big wrong. And it's actually something that we already have because we have been in school for 5 years and learning how to be teachers. Whoa. And we know our kids. You're right, Anastasia. Thank you, live audience.
Yeah.
Ashley, what about you? What about professional judgment?
I think it's definitely one of those things where you may have it to begin with, but it develops throughout your teaching career.
Oh, yeah.
And throughout your...
And it can change,
exactly.
Too.
And I think like with your placement, you're going to be able to understand better the students, but also we're learning about the curriculum, but we don't have that hands-on experience that's going to further develop it. And I think for each classroom, it changes as well. Like you can't have the same expectations for one class that you may for another. So I think coming into school year, you may have the basics of professional development, but you don't actually have the ability to make sound judgments until you're in a classroom.
Yeah, because we're not in those environments. We don't know. I mean, we've been taught how to deal with a perfect sterile class that maybe has one or two learning disabilities.
Listen, I love my imaginary classroom,
but like we
really
haven't
attached to it.
We haven't, sorry to use this word, but role played a student throwing a desk at you. You know, like
not role played. How dare you?
You know, like we haven't played out these terrible scenarios.
I don't think it's playing out. I think it just happens and you have to choose how you act in that situation.
Yeah, but we don't know because we're not practicing that.
No, but literally, how do they stay so calm? If a kid threw a desk at me, I fear my initial response would be like ah!
Yeah.
It's so loud. I know. Sorry, Margot.
Yeah. No. Go ahead.
I feel like there's also definitely like when you're going into a classroom, you can't have the expectations of how the students are going to act because every single student has a different reaction every single day, depending on their environment, depending on what happened at home the night before, or the morning of, or if they missed their bus, or if their parents yelled at them, or if they're not wanting to do that specific thing that day. So you can't judge it based off of a full year. It's a day by day.
Exactly. And like I said, it's a sterile, our imaginary classroom that we're envisioning. We know what's going to happen because we're envisioning it. So, we can't expect the unexpected because we don't know what the unexpected is. So how can we expect it?
Genuinely, my favorite piece of feedback I've ever gotten on like a lesson plan was in the early years. And it was a professor, and they went back and they went, yeah, like this is not real. Like no classroom would ever be like this. And I went, sir, I know it's not real. Do you know it's not real? That's kind of the expectation here.
Or they do you're not going to get through all of this in a classroom. That's great, but you gave me a 60-minute thing. I could get through all of that, and maybe a really good class could.
To my imaginary classroom, they're well behaved. I have them trained like the Navy SEALs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In my imaginary classroom, I'm allowed to do a lot of things I can't do in a real classroom.
The one thing I learned from the tutoring class was that you need a lot less than what you planned.
Yeah.
And also a lot more than what you planned. You need both, because you're either going to get only through one tiny section, or your kid's just going to blow off your whole lesson and you need to have backups.
You're oh my God. You either overestimate them or you either overestimate them or underestimate them.
Yeah, it's really hard to just estimate them.
No, I can't
Perfectly.
estimate them.
No.
I'm so scared for when it's not an imaginary classroom anymore.
I'm so excited. I'm so
excited, but I'm
can't
like,
wait.
what I want to do is kindergarten.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want to do like,
I love kindergarten.
I want to do like 6, 7,
me too. Middle school, like
I-
4
6,
to 8.
7.
6, 7.
6, 7.
Sleeper agents.
Unfortunately, we had to hit that real quick. But like I work with pre-K kids now, so kindergarten is like the closest I get without being like in a daycare kind of situation, which
Yeah.
not my vibe. But also at the same time, if I'm very rich, I'll work in a daycare because I feel like that's where I'd have the most fun. It just don't get paid as much.
I also feel like my other fear is the fact that, like, yes, I can be a teacher. Yes, I know how to teach. But I feel like I've always been told that I look young and that I'm small. So it's like, well, what if they don't take me seriously because of that?
But also, in a teaching context, you can be funny in your class and have your students still respect you.
Oh, I completely.
But as a woman, you try to be funny, they think you're lame.
Or they
Or
walk all over you.
They walk all over you. Yeah, like you can't be.
Or they sit there and they're like, "That's a joke my mom would make. That's not very funny."
Yeah, like you have to be a certain way in order to command respect, which sucks.
And then you're considered
Like strict,
stuck
and
up and
yeah.
rude and.
Well,
Yeah.
that's my thing is I feel that male teachers get to have the dichotomy of being either a hard ass, thank you, either being a hard ass or being like a laid back teacher.
Yeah.
Whereas like female teachers don't get that privilege.
No, you're
you're
either
mostly going to be seen as a hard ass, or you're going to be seen like
mommy, you can walk all over.
yeah.
Like,
And I feel like
Thank you. Yeah.
I feel like that also depends on the like grade level as well. Like we talked
Yeah.
about the like for you, because you want to go with young ones.
I will be seen as mother.
Yeah, exactly. Versus like I want to go with older kids, and in order, at least the classrooms that I have been in order to earn their respect and have them actually listen, sometimes you do have to use that bit of a firmer tone, and they're
and
like,
then you're
"Oh,
a
she's
bitch.
rude."
I'm sorry to use the
Well-
language, but then you're a bitch.
No, we're adults here. We're all adults here. Can we talk about the pajama epidemic?
What do you mean about kids wearing pajamas? To
Kids,
school?
but also university students.
I see them in the gym. Oh my
Lit-
gosh!
Why are you wearing pajamas to the gym? Why
like
are you on the
douchebags.
treadmill wearing
They
pajamas?
look like douchebags. I mean, period queen.
Period queen.
Period queen.
Period queen. Period queen.
Pumpkin.
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 Okay, back to the stuff that we back to the stuff that we won't cut out. There's probably going to be a hard cut going into this stuff from the very, very beginning of the episode.
Yep.
But professional judgment and like what we talked about. Did you guys talk about it in your PLCs? Because you talked about it for like marking.
Yeah, marking, which
Yeah.
I want to get on because
Oh my God,
actually
please, no.
we were having such a heated debate. Should we start with that, or should we go?
No, go for it.
Okay, so
Because it relates to what I want to talk about too.
name drop. Isabel was our PLC leader, and she gave us all the same passages.
Oh yeah, you two are the
Um,
same ones.
but
I'm left out, unfortunately.
Each passage was written by a different kid. There was Ava, who's our kid for group 6. She has ADHD, strong creative ideas, but needs structure. There's Liam struggles with attention and effort, tends to rush his work, and there's Sophia, high achieving and organized. I had Sophia.
I had Liam.
Ashley had Liam. Rory had
Ava?
Ava. So again, name drop. Rory marked Ava so hard. Again, they were all the same passages. A good friend is someone who's there for you even when things get hard. They listen to you,
Do they have the same mistakes? Like nothing is different?
Nothing is
Nothing's
different.
different.
Nothing is different at all.
okay.
But it's based on like
So you're looking. Oh my
So
god.
basically, she used our
She's
prejudices,
so smart.
our prejudices
Prejudices, yeah.
against us, and our biases against us.
Yeah.
pretty
no.
much.
Oh my god, that's so smart.
Social experiment.
Yeah.
Sick, especially when we get to
No,
the results.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so the task: write a short paragraph explaining what makes a good friend, and this is for grade 4. A good friend is someone who's there for you even when things get hard. Period. They listen to you and help you feel better. Period. Sometimes a good friend might make mistakes, but they say sorry and try again. Period. Friends also have fun together and laugh, but they also help each other when they need it. Period. I think being a good friend is mostly about being kind and honest.
Period.
So, period. I had Sophia, the high achieving and organized student. I gave her a level 4 on ideas and content, level 4 on organization, level 3 on writing conventions, spelling and grammar and punctuation, because she didn't add
could put some
any
commas in there.
she didn't add any commas. And then level 4 on communication. Voice is engaging and expressive, and it suits the task well. Rory, who had our name drop, student who has ADHD and strong creative ideas but needs structure, she gave her a level like 3 minus.
Yeah, she has a lot of level 2s in there.
Yeah,
she switched some of them from level 2 to level 3.
Yeah, she started off with all of them level 2, and then she put writing conventions and ideas and content to level 3. I was like, what? And Ashley was kind of the same thing.
I was
You
like,
were like an even middle
so
between the two of them.
yeah, I felt like I was in the middle. I think for me, a lot of my understanding comes from my teachable being English, but also from like I love writing in general. So when I sit there, I love an Oxford comma, and I'll use Oxford commas consistently. But when you're in grade 4, you don't know what an Oxford comma is.
I'm in year 5 university. I also don't know an Oxford.
I also did not know
explained it
until
to all of
Ashley
them.
explained it.
Fair enough.
So essentially I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, they could use an Oxford comma here, but if they don't use it throughout the whole entire thing, then it's not an Oxford comma, it's a comma splice, so it's incorrect. So like for ideas clear, relevant, and developed, or ideas and content, I did level 3. The one thing I did say is that it could use more detail, I could use examples, stuff like that, so they're not fully developed. Organization, again, I did 3 because it could be more of a story. If you add in details, then it could be like, this is how this person did this for me, and this is how I felt, and that's why I think that this is what makes a good friend. Writing conventions, again, I put minor errors because a grade 4 isn't going to know what an Oxford comma is. But if, let's say this is a grade
End of grade 4, maybe.
Well, not even, because the end of grade 4 won't know what an Oxford comma is.
Mhm.
Oxford comma is like high school.
Oh, my
So
bad.
if they're like, I'm not going to take off a whole bunch of marks for them not knowing what an Oxford comma is. So I have minor errors that do not affect meaning. So I have that under a 3. I could have that as a 2.5, depending. And then the last one, communication, again, I did a 3 because it's understandable and it's appropriate for the prompt, but it's not necessarily as detailed as it could be.
I'm hurrying us along because my battery is going again on the microphone. Worst comes to worst, we are all sharing that one mic.
Okay.
But
yeah,
I took a look at this because I came over and took a look at this, and I gave your student, which I didn't even pay attention that they were different ones. So hey, maybe I'm not a biased person. But I gave them a 3+. But I think that this is where stuff like, yes, there is a rubric, but like it talks about this suits the task well, like blah blah blah. We don't know what the task was. Was it to write a story, or was it
write
to
a short paragraph explaining what makes a good friend?
Okay,
They
and
said
that's a short
They
paragraph.
got to the point.
Yeah.
That's why I gave them a 4+. I'm not going to be like, oh,
I
you
don't
did
think
not
it's 4+. There's a lot of
I gave
mistakes.
a 4-, but not even like a lot of mistakes though.
It's punctuation by grade 4. They're in grade 4.
Yeah,
They
but
should know how to use a
this
comma.
could be
But
the
it- but it-
beginning of grade 4.
Are
This
they
could be
using an
September.
Oxford comma or are they using a regular comma?
They should still know how to use a comma in the beginning of grade 4.
I don't
Some
know.
of the sentences could and could not have had a comma, depending on if they put a comma in another
Well, see,
place.
that's why, like, when it comes to stuff like that, I always will be like, oh, like, to work on, if I think that there should be a comma and they don't recognize it, what I always recommend is when you're doing self editing, like when you're teaching a kid how to edit their own work, I always will be like, teach the kid to say it out loud because your brain will automatically stop.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I
pause.
do whenever I feel like I need to take a break or a breath. That's where I put a comma. And that's how I've been. But yeah, I'm like, I don't know where our bias is coming out because I've always considered myself kind of hard on kids. But also, I'm either super hard or a softie.
I know that I'm an easy marker. I know that I'm typically an easy marker.
I think I'm very hard on myself, but understanding where kids are in terms of their grade level definitely has helped me out. And I don't think I actually really looked at the kid's profile. Like, I think if I looked at the kid's profile, I might have sat there and been like, oh, okay, like he has issues with completing his task. Maybe I would have marked it a little bit higher because he completed the task. But again, I didn't really look at that. And I felt like if I marked everyone and they all had that, I would have marked it all the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we talked a little bit about that in our PLC about marking bias. Because we tried to relate it. We don't do activities like y'all do. We just kind of sit and chat. But I like it because it's where I get like the most ideas. I think that this is really cool. And I think she got your asses.
Yeah. I mean, like, I saw Sophia and I'm like, high achieving and organized. I'm not going to penalize her because she didn't go above and beyond and right at a grade 6 level. She fulfilled the task. She was straightforward. I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe I just hate rambling on and on and on and on
We
because
also-
I don't ramble on and on and on.
We also talked about the fact that there's like this expectation that a 3 is for completing the task, but a 4 is for going above and beyond, and how that's not necessarily fair.
I think that's BS. I think if you
Well,
met the
no, we recently
expectations-
learned actually that every single like level 1 to level 4 all are passes. So really what is our scale?
Yeah, like I think
I thought level 1 was a fail and I thought level 2 was like a 50. Like you just passed.
I will absolutely, if a student fulfills everything, I think it's a 4. If they do something above and beyond, I will absolutely give like great job. This is amazing. But I'm not going to penalize the student who met all of the expectations and did a good job with a level 3 just because somebody else went above and beyond
like
and
did something they weren't required to do.
and did something into grade 5. Like I just think that's BS.
No, I
personally.
agree with
I'm
you
not gonna
there. And I
gatekeep
think
level
that
4.
like the whole going above and beyond thing definitely comes from a university standpoint.
Yeah.
Because we have learned that like 70 to like 80 is like our range of like this is you meeting expectations. This is when you do the work and you get perfect on the rubric, it's a 70 to 80.
I
If
think
you
that's-
go like up, you're not getting a 90 or higher unless you like reinvent the fucking wheel. And I
Yeah.
go,
But you
who
told-
has time for that?
You told me what you want and I did it. And I think that's good. And I think this is a way where we're not going to keep students from like chasing that high mark and they're actually going to focus on their learning because they're not stressing out about like, oh my gosh, what extra do I have to do? No, they are meeting when I'm teaching them. You know?
I think it also depends on their background. Like for me, the high school that I went to was very much so, and the friend group that I had was very much so marks. Like I would get a 87 on something and they would be like, oh, it's okay, I can tutor you so you can do better next time. I'm like, an 87 is still a good mark. And it was like they were expecting like 90s and like but like high 90s, so it was like that expectation was so, it was such a toxic environment. And that's why even in university that's why that's why in university I was so hard on myself when I didn't get the marks that I was like, I don't understand. Like I'm going through this rubric, I'm making a checklist and I'm checking everything off. Where am I falling short?
But also, well, that's the other thing. That's why I'm like, if I'm filling everything in the rubric, it should be a level 4 for students.
We talked about
like-
it in our PLC about professional judgment and stuff, especially with our case study kid, because our kid Sophie, she's ADHD
Mhm.
and all that stuff. She doesn't have like a lot going on, but we talked about how important it is to know your students and create that classroom profile, because like Margot was saying in the beginning, like assessment isn't just tests and everything. It's also like, how does she come into the building every day? Is she, is she on her phone? Is she engaged with the lesson? Is she never engaged with the lesson? Is she usually having good days or usually having bad days or a mix? But even like when we do have to do the tests, in a realistic classroom, we're not going to have one student with like learning disabilities and stuff like that, or specialities.
Exceptionalities.
Thank you. We're not going to have just one kid or two kids or even three kids. Like it's probably going to be a higher number than that we also have IEPs for, and modifications and accommodations.
Like close to half, I think.
Like we're going to have to take into account so much that realistically, and I'm going to say it now for everyone, you have to give yourself permission to fail that kid at least once. That like you're going to give them a test or something and it's just not going to be what they need in order to like flourish. But we were talking about how when we do have those moments and when we do have, either they were having a bad day or I did not make this test well enough to accommodate them. I did not think of everything I could have to help them. That's where professional judgment comes in. That's where knowing your learners come in.
Yeah.
In the articles, like some of the like main things were communication, but also collaboration, which I think is a really like big thing. We're talking about professional judgment, and yeah, that's on the teacher, but it also comes with communication of what those expectations are, so that you're an actual fair judge of every single student. So communicating to them, this is what I want, creating that success criteria with them, so that they're not.
That's a great place to co-create a rubric.
Exactly.
So it's a fantastic place to use that.
They're not sitting there feeling like they're falling behind or confused about where they went wrong. Like we said, like there's some assignments we get back and I'm like, but what did I not do?
Is you did great,
or
but I didn't get them 100.
Or the feedback is you're missing one of these things. Yeah, I sat there and checked every single thing off, made sure it was in.
So what am I missing?
Exactly.
But they won't tell you. Like it's not you're missing one of these things. It's you're missing something from the rubric.
Exactly.
You want to point out which one.
And then that frustrates the student, and they don't take you seriously, and they don't want to take the class seriously. And what they're learning, you think I learned a lot in digital media? Like no, because I was frustrated with the way I was being marked
and taught.
With the digital assessment class, I felt like I sat there and I had these ideas and I was checking off these things for the assignment, but I wasn't actually getting the mark that I felt I deserved, even though I was fulfilling every single requirement that was on that rubric. And it's like that's where the communication comes in, for giving them these learning goals, and the collaboration of co-creating that assessment. Now all of a sudden those like expectations are clear and your judgment can be fair based off of the criteria that you created with everyone, so that it is equitable.
I agree. And I want to go back to last week where we talked about assessments, obviously. Shocker, guys.
I wonder what it could be.
Yeah. But for my PLC, when I was doing it, I created a really, really bad assessment, which, guys, you guys are not acting like, I feel like I reinvented the wheel with that. How many of you guys have had bad assessments on purpose? Oh, okay. Well,
maybe not on purpose.
On purpose. How many people have done that? It's just like when Isabella was like mind fucked with us. Anyways, but yeah, I created a bad assessment. I went based off of the reading that we had. It was like use of idioms, unclear language, unnecessary information, things like that. Time limits that weren't right, and I created an assessment that was just terrible. Like it wasn't one subject. I had some math, but I also had some English.
That made no sense. The question about the birds. How many birds are there?
Yeah, I said, how many birds are there in a day? Or something like that. And I had the answers 4, 5, 6, 27. And then I put a picture of birds, and I actually saw Ashley counting the number of birds in the picture. And I was like, oh my gosh. Because a student could think that, and they could think and start counting the picture that you have beside, but it was just a picture that you chose that was just.
It was a random picture.
It was a random picture based off of the topic, and it was an absolutely nonsense question. And like, what's the right answer for that?
If someone lives somewhere, like I lived right like near my high school, so there was a football field, so we had all of these seagulls that would come to this, and I don't like seagulls, but if I sat there and
Dang,
counted that
seagulls.
many versus if Ashton still lived in like the middle of the woods, he would see way less birds than I did if I was sitting on the football field.
Exactly. So yeah, and then also it was a Blooket, and Blooket, and it was some of the questions. It's like a Kahoot. Some of the questions I set the timer to be like 2 seconds, 3 seconds, which was meant to be which was meant to be like they don't even have time to read it, and then it goes on to the next question, like freaks them out, you know. But I ran into technical difficulties, and that didn't happen, and it just kept replaying the questions over and over again, which is another way of like a bad assessment, because first of all, I didn't make sure that the technology worked, but it worked to my advantage. And then
test it.
yeah, and then second, like it was still bad and weird.
There was also the accessibility aspect of it as well, because like my computer was taking so long to load, so even though I was sitting there and like clicking through them as fast as I could, it was sitting there and loading between each question, whereas Rory's was sitting there and hers was like going off one right after the other, so I wasn't getting as many. I lost.
No,
because
but Rory didn't get first, and she was so
Oh,
upset
that's true.
about it.
But like I wasn't able to like have as many questions because my computer was taking longer to load. And like you don't think about that, but then you also don't think about the fact that okay, if I'm doing these, what happens if a student goes home, is doing it, and then they don't have a computer there?
Exactly. So guys, I was fantastic at making a bad assessment, and I feel like I'm not being applauded enough for that.
Okay, that was a really great talk about professional judgment. I'm stopping the talk there. Well, I'm stopping the talk there, and then we're going on to the "Am I the Asshole," which is also about professional judgment. So, oh, it's so fun, Anastasia. Anastasia, I know you love to read our "Am I the Asshole."
I would love to. Okay. Am I the asshole for using my professional judgment on a student's test, even though the parent is now furious? So, I'm a middle school teacher, and last week my class wrote a short response comprehension test. Nothing major, just something to check understanding before we move on. One of my students, let's call him Jay, is super bright, but he rushes through everything like he's in a speed reading competition. On this test, Jay answered every question, but a few of his responses were technically correct without actually showing the understanding to the question. The understanding the question was meant to assess. For example, instead of explaining a character's motivation, he'd write something like because he wanted to, which isn't wrong, but also isn't demonstrating any actual reasoning. So I deducted partial marks, the same way I have all year and the same way our rubric says to. Fast forward to yesterday. His mom emails me a 3-paragraph rant about how I punished her son for not writing paragraphs. Ooh.
I hate parents.
That my expectations are subjective, and that if the answer is correct, it should be fully marked. She also CC'd the vice principal for good measure. I responded politely, explained the rubric, explained the curriculum expectation about providing supporting evidence, and reassured her that Jay is doing well overall. She replied with, "Well, I don't agree with your interpretation of the curriculum," and asked for the test to be remarked objectively. My VP looked at the test and told me he agreed with my judgment, and that I assessed it exactly the way the school expects us to. But now the parent is demanding a meeting because she thinks I'm stifling Jay's creativity. I genuinely wasn't trying to be harsh. I want the kid to succeed, and part of that is helping him slow down and actually demonstrate his thinking. But now I'm wondering if I should have just given full marks and avoided the headache entirely. So, am I the asshole?
Absolutely not.
No.
I think one of the things that it's so subjective is English and language, especially if they're having to read something, versus if the student was to do the same thing in math and not show their work and just write the answer. How am I supposed to know? You literally could have just looked at your like one of your table group peoples and saw what answer they wrote and went, "Oh, yep, sure, that's correct." And that's so unfair.
I've been guilty of that.
Like, it's not actually demonstrating how you know, and especially if it is for comprehension.
Oh, comprehension is really important.
Exact. And if the assessment was for comprehension, saying because he wanted to isn't actually justifying why he
She's
did.
better than me. I would have not given you a mark for that. Like, not, I wouldn't have just deducted partial marks. That's not an answer.
I mean, I think they resolved it in a good way. The vice
I think the
principal,
parents being unreasonable.
yeah, and the vice principal remarked it. Like, look, again, like we all mark based off of like internal biases, or like it just is.
are easier markers than others.
It just is how it is, But if you have like the vice principal, like who has marked it, maybe she could get like an extra teacher to mark it, but that's like only if she really wants to make the parent happy.
is really causing a stink.
I don't think she's the asshole, personally.
I also think the same thing of like we talked about earlier, the respect aspect that's not coming along as much with the newer generations coming up. I think part of that has to do with COVID, but then also part of that has to do with the fact that a lot of parents raise their children as though will
perfect.
never make a mistake in their life. And that is such an unfortunate thing, because they're going to get into the real world, or they're going to get into high school or university, and they're going to be told, no, you're not perfect. You did not do well at this. They're going to completely freak out, and it's going to be a downward spiral. Like, this mother clearly treats her child as though he can't do anything wrong. And that's so detrimental to it. One, his ego. He's going to have this massive ego thinking he's better than everyone else. When in reality, I'm sorry, but answering because he wanted to, not an answer.
Depending on how old the kid is, like it definitely could have just been like a jokes answer. Like, this is so funny. Everyone's going to think this is funny. Kids do that.
You know what I would do? If the mom is still on my ass about it, I would suggest an in-person meeting. Say, I'd talk to some of the teachers, be like, hey, would you be willing to sit in on the meeting? Give the parent the option, hey, you can have the vice principal, the principal, or the resource teacher sit in on the meeting. Whoever you want, whoever you feel more comfortable with. You can even have all of them, just had to have a mediating party. And we can talk about this, so I can explain what my reasoning was, again, face to face, and you can tell me what you think. And that's fine. We can disagree. But
at the end of the day, you're the teacher.
Yeah. And if you have an issue with the way that I mark, let's talk about what my expectations are. And I would give her solutions for how Jay can get his markup. I would be like, this is an exact example of how he can get his markup. I want the answer. I want the reasoning behind it.
Like, his mark didn't go down. She took away partial marks, which I think is crazy.
Yeah, but some parents might be like, oh, my kid
doesn't have 100.
My kid needs to have 90. My kid needs to have 95. And 87 is not good enough, because maybe an 87 is a pretty good mark, right? But some people, I mean, I know we're not in high school.
Some people were told that an 87 is not good enough.
Yeah, but
my parents' rule growing up was always, if I'm not coming to the school and I'm not talking to your teacher unless you are failing.
For me, I think showing the parent examples of a student that got full marks for those questions and what they actually answered.
That's what I'm saying. Giving them the formula of what you need in order to achieve those full marks.
And also being like, I'm not just like leaving this here. Like, we're obviously going to talk about this as a class. I'm going to make my expectations more known for Jay.
You have to validate the parent as well.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, education has become so commercialized and everything that you are, as the teacher, you are there to satisfy the parent. I am not there to satisfy the parent. At the end of the day, like, I'm going to be the strict teacher, and I'm going to be a teacher that parents I don't think will like.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I am your kid's teacher. I am not your best friend. I don't work for you. I am your kid's teacher. I'm here to teach them. If I use my judgment, I am backed up by my admin team.
Mhm.
and your kid is not passing this assignment or is
I
not
agree.
getting 100% and you have a problem with that, we can talk back and forth all you like, and I'd love to come to an agreement with you, and I'd
Yeah.
love to come to an understanding. If we don't, that's fine. I'm his teacher.
And we can find a way to make the next upcoming assignments, him
Absolutely.
reach 100. Like
You're not changing the mark.
that is what the meeting is for,
Yeah.
to figure out how he can achieve that 100. Because, again, maybe the parent's coming from the perspective of, well, like for McMaster University, you need a 97% average, and you say that he has a 92 average, and it's good, but it's not good enough. Like, you're not one to say what's a good enough mark for a student, and I understand that, and I see where the parent's coming from. So that's why I'd have that in-person conversation with people backing me up, but also backing up the parents, because they need to feel like they are being represented and like we're on the same team, because we are.
I just think school has given parents way too much power and way too much like, I want you to change the mark, so you have to change the mark. No.
I think also, like, one thing that could actually prove it to his mother, the fact that he did not put an effort in for those answers, would be sitting there and have him redo the test in front of his mother and have him write the answers that are not because he wanted to, like actually put an effort into the test and say, okay, so if he did this and actually answered why that whatever did, like why that character did that thing, not just because he wanted to, then he would have received full marks for that. Now you can see the difference of what he could have had and what my expectations were for him and what he actually answered me with. This is why I took this off, because I know your son has the potential to do it to the best of his ability, and he did not do that.
He just wasn't doing it this day.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe they're going through a bad day. Like, you never know. Again, like, and it's helpful to have a resource teacher there, because maybe there's an underlying exceptionality. Maybe I'm not
Maybe
saying
they're just having a bad day.
Yeah, like if he doesn't want to write, that sucks, but you have to write. You have to learn how to read and write, But maybe he needs some extra support, some extra tools. Maybe he needs a scribe. Maybe he needs to just tell you the answers because his comprehension is there, but there's a different issue.
Write it all out.
Either he doesn't want to, or if there's an issue, he can't write it out.
Maybe
Like
he has
that.
poor fine motor skills like my student.
Exactly. Like that's, and it's easier to get to that in person because again, email might not convey the right tone.
Yeah. Okay, so not the asshole.
No,
not the asshole at all. Not the asshole. Okay,
And
I'm cutting us off there.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't even think they.
We will be cutting out a huge chunk of that middle part.
Yeah.
That will be optional for Margot to listen to later. Okay, everyone say bye, Margot.
Bye, Margot.
Bye, Margot.
Let's play us out.
Okay.
Ba 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 ba.